Yes, I'm Matt Warner. I'm the MD of Talon Petroleum. Talon is an ASX-listed exploration company which has recently moved into an asset portfolio in the North Sea, and probably my presentation this morning is timely after the two talks we've had this morning on both potential in the North Sea and farm-out activity. So where are we at Talon? A little bit of background. Company's been listed on the ASX for quite a number of years. I got involved with it probably about 12 to 18 months ago, helped recapitalise what was effectively a small shell with some East Texas production assets, and then set upon a project to go and find new assets for the company and reposition it. So through that process, we looked all over the world, and then around the middle part of last year started to have a firm interest in the North Sea. I'd recently been involved in another Australian company called Otto Energy, and we positioned that company post the sale of a significant production asset in the Philippines into the shallow water Gulf, and that's kicked on and gone very well for Otto. And I saw a lot of similarities here in the North Sea, in that you've got a prolific oil basin, a space for small companies being made through larger companies potentially exiting, a government that's very proactive and welcoming of new investment, and we've tried to leverage that, and we've built ourselves a portfolio that we're looking at increasing on building. We think we've got, at this stage, a strong acreage position and, more importantly, a great team to take it forward. The North Sea, I probably don't need to touch on much for all of you, but as I said, we saw a real space for us as a small company to move in. We see very low finding costs. There's still some good discoveries being made, Glengorm this year being a case in point. Infrastructure, so if we're finding stuff, we can move things forward through developments. This is very much an ASX education piece, a lot of these slides. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to identify and target entry into early stage prospect opportunities, particularly using the annual bid rounds, and look to farm out for carried positions. And we're trying to sit around 20% equity in our projects, and to move forward and trying to have multiple drilling opportunities each year. So, good plan. How does a small company like that from Australia and an Australian ex-corporate lawyer make this happen? Pretty simple. We find the best people to help us, and I think we've done that. And we've done that. I'm very pleased with how we've managed to pull that together. Very quickly, these balloons are able to show you the portfolio we've been able to build. We've now got 4 exploration blocks and an appraisal opportunity, and then we're looking ahead in November to the upcoming bid rounds, where we think we can add to our portfolio reasonably significantly through that process. So, who have we got to help? Well, part of our entry into the North Sea, we completed an acquisition of a private company called EnCore Oil. This is in the mid part of this year. That came with 2 exploration blocks which are owned by 100%, and we added, just as importantly as the assets, was a team of people, which was specifically Graham Doré, Paul Young and Steve Jenkins is in the room. They've had a long and storied history in the North Sea through EnCore Oil, Nautical Petroleum, and know a huge amount about the region, and I think will allow us as a small company to punch above our weight, certainly from a technical perspective. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the stories of EnCore and Nautical. I don't want to pump Steve's tyres up too much, but obviously it's 2 very successful companies with a North Sea focus. Not only were they able to pick the right assets, explore, develop, they also had a knack of exiting at the right time, which I think is very important. So we're really pleased to be able to link up with a team of that nature, and that will help us, I think, build out a portfolio which is going to be significant as we move into hopefully the exploration phase next year. So what have we got? We've picked up, as I said, we've got 4 exploration licenses and an appraisal asset. We're very focused in, from a technical point of view, on areas that Graham and Paul and Steve know well, so that's the Central Graben and the Moray Firth. And the first prospect that we've brought in is called SKYMOOS. I wasn't aware of what SKYMOOS was. Apparently it's a character from the Clangers children's show. I learnt that earlier this year, so something I wasn't familiar with. But we've got 100% working interest in that. It's a 100 million barrel best case prospect. It's relatively shallow water and shallow drilling, and can be drilled quite cheaply and effectively in around the 10 to 11 million US dollar range. So not massively expensive, a fair bit of bang for your buck there. As you'll see with our portfolio, most of them are strat trap plays. All of them come with good quality 3D seismic, and we're trying to find things that aren't going to break the bank in terms of drilling. As I said, our strategy at present is to look to find farming partners for those blocks. Farm out process has been running on SKYMOOS for a couple of months. We've got strong interest from large companies. Technically, the feedback we're getting is strong, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to pull a deal on that particular block in the near term. So we're working very hard on that. The second prospect that came when we purchased EnCounter was Rocket. You can see on the map here, Rocket sits in the little red box with the green and yellow blobs on it. And to the north there is the Catcher series of fields, which the EnCore, Graham and Paul were instrumental in. Steve was also involved in Nautical. Now all those were drilled on seismic amplitudes, and once one was drilled, basically 7 more were drilled on those amplitudes, and each of them found oil. The block that contains Rocket was held by EnCore, I believe, in its past. It has that same amplitude play on it. It had been relinquished by Premier, and the guys were able to pounce on it and pick it up in the 30th round late last year. Obviously an area they know very well. It's more modest in size than SKYMOOS, but it sits up in that almost 30 million barrel recoverable range. Quite low risk, again, shallow, cheap drilling, can be tied back to the infrastructure. I think Bergman's about 5 kilometres away. And obviously we have a team that really unlocked this play and know it as well, if not better than anyone else. So we think that's a valuable prospect. Again, we've been running a farm out process on that for the last couple of months, getting some good interest, probably a different level, type of company involved in that than the guys that are looking at SKYMOOS, simply because of the scale. But a really nice prospect, and we're very happy to have it in our portfolio. More recently, we've added a couple more licences through the 31st and the round and the 31st supplemental round. One of those is a prospect called VANTAGE. It sits out more to the west in the inner Moray Firth area. It's a recent award. We've picked up 50% interest in that block alongside a company called Geoscience, which is actually Graham Doré and Paul, and we bid on this block jointly before we tied up with them through EnCounter. So I think we will bring this block into Talon 100%, makes sense. That licence has recently been issued. Again, it's a strat play, up-dip from known oil. And the first time these two licences, you can see it straddles the 2 block boundaries there on the map, and they haven't been licensed as one block for decades. So this is a prospect the team has been coveting for quite some time, and they've been managed to be able to license it over 2 blocks and in one thing. So we're about to kick off a farm out process on that. We've already had a couple of companies come and inquire about that before we started marketing it. So we're very hopeful that as we move forward, we'll be able to continue to farm those blocks out. And then from the exploration perspective, the last block, and we've added most recently, is 1430B. The blue box just to the west is where the SKYMOOS prospect sits. So the Thelma and Louise prospect have essentially been picked up as follow-on plays in the event that we drill SKYMOOS and we have a success there. So we wanted to lock up the area around that. We think it makes our portfolio a lot more valuable, and also from a farm out point of view, when we're talking to players on SKYMOOS, we can show that there's follow-on potential just outside of that prospect. So talking to companies around that as well, farm out process is getting G'd up. Last but not least, and a slight deviation, I guess, from the exploration theme, but we've picked up a 10% interest in what's known as the Curlew A appraisal opportunity. This is a historic shell discovery. It's got around a 39 million barrel 2C resource. It's a low-cost appraisal opportunity. We are looking at, it's owned by a private company called Corallian Energy. They are looking at farming down some more equity on that block at present, and we're hoping to drill that in the first half of next year. So appraisal, slightly different to what we're looking at, but it's a four-way dip-closed discovered oil play. We like having in our portfolio. I think it adds a little bit something, a bit of something different to our mix. Corporately, as I said, I'm based in Australia, in Perth. Peter Stickland is our chairman, who's a long-standing explorationist back home, and then Steve, Graham and Paul form our board and geoscience team, and they're based up here in the UK. So we think we've got a good balance. As I said, I'm a former corporate lawyer. I've worked in oil and gas for a long time, so I think there's a good mix of people there. What do we look like? I think we're probably the smallest company here. As I said, we're very new. We're almost trading at cash at present. What we really need to show to people, I think, as an investment thesis, is that we can deliver on our strategy, and that is to acquire blocks cheaply, keep filling our pipeline and farming them out so we get a constant roll-through of drilling activity in what we're doing. We think that's achievable. As I said, we recut the register, and basically the top 80% of the shareholders are people well known to me. There's small funds and high net worths based in Australia. So, just about out of time, but what could, if all this comes together over the next 12 months, what could this look like? We're giving ourselves, a target of trying to farm out at least one of Rocket or SKYMOOS by the end of this year or the very early part of next year. We've shot the site survey over Curlew, and we're hopeful of drilling that well. So all going in the first half of the year. So all going well, we could potentially have between 1 and 3 wells getting drilled next year, which I think puts a lot of excitement into what we're doing. And then obviously we've got bid rounds coming up. We're looking to keep adding to our portfolio, so hopefully we'll do that. So I'm out of time. Steve and I at booth 14. We've got a reasonably full day, but we've always got time for other people to come and say hello. So thanks very much.